I'm George Curtis. Welcome to It's Your Law. Each week it's my privilege to bring you guests that tell us a little bit about our law, sometimes things we don't want to hear, sometimes what they intended to accomplish in Madison or in the court system or right here locally, and then sometimes why it works, why it doesn't work, and what you can do about it as a citizen. Today's guest is Senator Mike Ellis. I've had the privilege of having Senator Ellis on my show before. It's unplanned. It wouldn't pay to plan it. It's a free-flowing conversation, and hang on to your hats and find out what Mike's got to say today.
Well, it's good to be here, George. It's good to
Welcome
see you.
to the show.
Thank you.
Now, you've been in the legislature since about 1970. Okay. First of all in the Assembly, and then later on in the Senate.
That's right. 82, I was elected to the state Senate, and preceding that was 12 years in the state Assembly.
And I have always thought that you had a bit of an independent streak. I'm not sure what party I favor today. I can't think of one offhand. But recently, the Republican Party has been a little bit to the right of my feelings. I haven't been real happy representing injured people with some of the so-called tort reform and things like that. But I always could rely on Mike Ellis and Senator Olson sometimes too for a kind of a let's cut through all of the crap and tell you what's really going on here and why this is or isn't good. I have loved some of your stands on election finance reform. They didn't buy all of them, but they were legitimate, they were honest. I really very much on point with you with some of the redistricting discussions that are going on. Wondered where the hell you were when the school voucher mess went through, but maybe I just don't understand it. But all of that's behind us, at least for the moment. Why don't we talk about what's happening now and why we should be scared?
Sounds good to me, George.
All right, go ahead.
Well, we could start with, you mentioned the voucher deal. We ended up, the governor wanted to have no cap on vouchers statewide, beginning in 19. Boy, George, we're getting old. In 2015. There were not going to be many new dollars put into public education. They were going to also strip from the local school boards the decision, and they're the ones that are elected by the people. They were going to strip the authority to develop charter schools. And so we went to work on that. Senator Olson and I led the fight to put new money into K-12 education. The initial budget document would not have raised what's called the revenue control, and I don't want to get inside baseball, but the fact of the matter was there wasn't going to be any additional dollars going to the 850,000 students in our public school system, sprinkled across Wisconsin in 426 districts. So we led that fight, and we were able to get, for every child in the public school system, $150 more in the first year, a new $150 in the second year, and if you look over the prior budget, that comes to $450 more per student. And we were successful in getting that. We also reinserted the autonomy of local school boards to determine who and how charter schools are created. They're answerable to the people that elected them. In the budget bill, there was an oversight board created in Madison that could override a local school board's decision not to create an independent charter school. Now, charter schools are important. They're incubators for innovation, and they don't have a lot of red tape around them. Some can be instrumentalities of the school district. That means that all the labor contract negotiations are there. They're there. The second is an independent one, but they're answerable to the school board. This bill would have prevented that. It would have said that if the Oshkosh School District Board of Education said no to a proposed charter, people could take that and go to Madison and they could override the school board. We got rid of that. there was also some difficulties with the special needs program. There's an interaction between federal law and state law. Bottom line on it is that if a special needs student was to leave the public school and go to a private school, it would have left a $13,000 per year hole in the public school, and they could not raise the taxes to make it up, and they would have to take the money from the other population and put it in there because of the federal law. We got rid of all of that. And in return for that, we did give them 500 more slots in the voucher program. Now, like as you know, being a trial lawyer, that in any compromise, you never get everything you want. You never do. But when I look at this and I lay this against, when I weigh this, like on the scale of justice, so to speak, in the Fox Valley, Oshkosh, Appleton, Neenah, Menasha, Kimberly, Kaukauna, we're going to, those kids in our public schools, because of what Luther Olson and I did, they're getting $16 million more over the next 2 years in state assistance, additional money that they weren't going to get. The local school boards are still in charge of the charter schools, and we protected the concept and the financing for special needs. Now, what did we have to give up? We had to give up 500 slots. 500 slots. But 2 years from now, that cap is still there. Now, I'm not naive. I know they'll be back. They'll want more. They'll want more. But in the world we live in, the life expectancy of any bill only lasts until the next election, when you elect either the same governor or a new governor. Whether you keep Democrats in the minority or you put them in the majority, everything can change. So we live in, literally, we live in a 24-month lifespan. And so I am not nervous. I know we're going to have this battle again. But the fact of the matter is, when I look at those, at 94% of the kids in Oshkosh, Appleton, Neenah, Menasha, Kimberly, Kaukauna, when you throw them all together, 94% of those kids are in public schools. And we were able to get them almost $16 million more that they weren't going to get.
An excellent explanation.
Thank you.
It took our first of 3 sessions, however, Mike, and I'm going to have to take a break now. And when I throw you another question, I want to get 2 questions in the second segment, all right?
I will be brief, as I usually am.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law. I'm George Curtis, and my guest is Senator Mike Ellis. And our studios are located in our law office on Washburn. Those of you who come to this area to see EAA, we're about 5 minutes away from that. And there's some interesting things happening with respect to our local airport, EAA, and the airlines industry. And Senator Ellis is in the forefront of it. Tell us about it.
Well, I'm kind of, but not, you know, I have to say this. I think that the county board and the city of Oshkosh and the people that are involved with the aero industry in Oshkosh are very, very smart, and they're looking ahead. They have purchased I'm not going to have the number right, 80 acres, 100 acres, whatever it is, to create this aero commercial park. It's going to be developing. We get hundreds of thousands of people here every year to go to the EAA. They come from all over the nation. And the wisdom of the county people and the city people about developing an aero park that would be like an industrial park, but it would be geared toward aviation innovation, new technology, existing technology, the refinement of it. When you think of that once, this could be the center of the universe to a large extent. We know what Whitman and Paul Beresny and the boys did over the last 30 years to make Oshkosh the hub with the EAA. This 20 years from now could be one of the biggest industrial developments that we will see. The problem we have with Wisconsin tax law right now is you cannot be exempt from the sales tax on repairs, maintenance, etc., unless it's a commercial airline like Delta, so on and so forth. More and more corporations are going to private jets to get their people around the country, flying technology people in here and out. There are no borders anymore. But the problem in Wisconsin is we have the 5% sales tax, and it's levied on repairs and maintenance and so on. We're the only state, Iowa and Wisconsin, that still has the sales tax on non-commercial airline repairs and maintenance. Michigan, Minnesota, Indiana, Illinois, I can go on and on. They do not tax the repairs and maintenance. And as a result of that, corporations are flying right over Wisconsin, right over the Fox Valley. And they'll continue to fly right over the EAA grounds. They will continue to fly right over this new Aero Industrial Park that's going to be coming in the future because it's cheaper to land in Minnesota and not pay the sales tax. A good example is Gulfstream up on the northern end of the valley here in Appleton. Gulfstream anticipated a loss of $5.7 million last year simply because of this sales tax. They paid 1.7 in sales tax, but they're losing business. Right now they employ, I think it's either 383 or 833, one or the other, but they're growing. They've already put 100 new people on. If we can get this tax taken off, they anticipate over the next 5 years adding 300 new slots. Not only that, Gulfstream is serviced by 140 vendors, small businesses that feed into the Gulfstream core. We have Cessna down in Waukesha County. We have another major development going on right now in the Stevens Point area. We have big business in Eau Claire and La Crosse. So we can create a lot of new jobs here if we pull that sales tax off. Yes, it means $3 million a year the state will not take in. But it's a $3 million investment to create more good-paying jobs, and more than anything, it levels the playing field.
Is there a bill right now to accomplish that?
Yeah, we have the bill. The committee, I'm the author of the bill. The bill cleared the appropriate Senate committee last week unanimously. Republicans and Democrats on the committee voted in favor of it. The bill was reported out in executive session unanimously. It's currently in the Senate Organization Committee. That's the last step before we schedule it for a floor vote. We have a little problem with some of the Assembly people, and some of them are Republicans. The law requires, as I'm sure you know, whenever you're going to do an exemption, we have to analyze the exemption separately. And so we have a joint survey committee on tax exemptions made up of Republicans, Democrats from both houses. They, by statutory law, have to file a report. They can't kill the bill. They just simply have to tell the rest of us from a tax standpoint, it's good, it's bad, it's neutral, whatever the case may be. We're having difficulty right now getting them to meet. And that's a hurdle that I'll have to take care of internally in Madison. Because if they don't want to do this, then maybe some of their bills aren't going to move past my presidential desk.
I can't believe that goes on in Madison.
Anyway, this is a great thing for the potential of Oshkosh, and it's going to help the existing industry throughout the state. And it's not just Gulfstream and Appleton. Like I said, it's Cessna. It's all over the state. So that's a very important job-creating bill. And when you think of it once, they put more people to work. Yeah, we're losing some sales tax money, but we're going to pick up a ton of new consumer spending because we're going to put people to work, high-paying jobs. That's what stimulates the economy. That's what creates more jobs.
Well, Senator Ellis, we're going to have to take our second break, and when we come back, I've got a number of questions for you, one of which is some legislation that was in the morning paper about amending who's qualified to vote in Wisconsin. That's quite a controversial subject, so
Sure.
We'll have a question for you in just a moment.
Okay.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law. I'm George Curtis, and Senator Mike Ellis and I are willing to talk about anything. And one of the things that I read in the morning newspapers is some issues on voter ID. What's the issue there?
Well, 2 years ago, we passed a voter ID bill. It has 4, 5, 6, whatever, suits pending before the court. And initially, one judge ruled sections of the bill unconstitutional. And then others are appealing that. And so let's just put it this way. The bill itself has never been put into play. It's sitting there, and the courts, there's still other cases tied to this. There is a bill that is being pushed right now by the Assembly. They think that they've got it. They think it's constitutional, and I'm sure after all that we've gone through, they've done their homework. So that bill is before the Assembly, and they're going to pass it. And the leader of the Senate, Fitzgerald, today announced that he was not going to take it up. And he's not taking it up, and I'm getting this from the papers that I read on the way down here, that he wants to wait and see how the court shakes this all out. And when they get, according to Fitzgerald now, what we'll do is take a look at the determinations made by the various court cases, and then they will earmark what they believe were the unconstitutional features of it, and then he claims that would be the time to come in with a new bill tailor-made off of that. Now, there's a disagreement going on between that approach, and that's Scott Fitzgerald, the majority leader of the Senate, and Robin Vos, the Speaker of the Assembly. Robin Vos says we shouldn't let the court tell us how we should legislate. So there's going to be a little tension there between the two houses. I just hope it doesn't turn out to be a circular firing squad where Republicans are in a circle shooting at each other, because that's usually a sign something's not going to be good.
Well, it is an interesting issue from a philosophical standpoint and from a practical political standpoint. I suppose that what we read in the paper isn't exactly what's going on, but I get the impression that the liberals feel that any kind of a stiffening of voter ID requirements are going to make it more difficult for transient people, for elderly people, for homeless people, for people who don't drive, and for women who've changed their name because they were divorced, remarried, or something like that. Those are typically liberal voters, and they think that this is an effort to make it harder for them to vote. From the Republican side, what I read is that they feel that there's a lot of people who aren't eligible to vote where they vote, and they want to tighten up the rules. Am I missing it?
No, I think you've got it pegged perfectly. You can make the argument, all those liberal arguments that you just made, I don't really agree with, but that's why.
That's why you're here.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, trying to be an analytical person, you can see where they can say that. On the other side of the coin, you look at what some Republicans are saying about buses coming up from Illinois, crossing the line, going in, they're handing out voting, you know what I'm saying. In both instances, I think it's a stretch. But we should make sure that people who do vote have a right to vote and vote where they're supposed to vote. But we need to do that in a manner which doesn't make it more difficult to vote. But I supported the original bill, and I still do, but I'm not a constitutional lawyer. So if we did a bill that wasn't right from a constitutional point, then we should let the court make that decision whether or not that's why we have a court system.
And you've been roundly quoted within the last couple of weeks about the redistricting issue. from my point of view, which isn't particularly important, whatever party's been in at the time when the legislative districts were created would create a creative district that benefited their party and had some secure areas. And now there's a lot of discussion that maybe we should go on the Iowa system where somebody other than the legislature does it. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't see any problem with holding a public hearing on the subject, having a conversation about it, taking a look at it, measuring what they're doing in Iowa. I think half the legislature is not familiar with Iowa. We don't really have to do redistricting until 2020. On the other side of the coin, to be blunt, I think the Democrats are being less than, well, they're being disingenuous. They controlled the legislature, both houses. They had Governor Doyle from 2009 through 2011. They didn't do anything. They didn't change anything. The legislature, they didn't do anything. And if you go back and look at the history here, we did not get control of either house of the legislature. We lost control in the late 60s, and we didn't get it back until 1993. All right. And during that time frame, I didn't hear any push by my friend, Fred Risser, who's been there ever since they turned the lights on, to change it. But I don't have a problem having a hearing on it and discussing it. I think that's fine.
So what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the Irish. And you can't have much of a memory in politics, and you hope they didn't keep your old speeches.
Oh, boy. That's about it.
As always, it's a great pleasure.
It was good, George.
Right.
Anytime.
I'll bet you're sick of politics, sick of hearing about politics, sick of watching what's happened in Washington, D.C. and in Madison and in the courts and all of the money, especially secret corporate money that's been used to buy elections, even judicial elections, and you just want to wash your hands of it, forget it, have nothing to do with it. And that's exactly the wrong way to look at it. It demonstrates the importance of what these people we elect do. And we might decide that all of the people that are Republicans are wrong or right, or the reverse for the Democrats. But actually, somebody like Mike Ellis tells you that some of them think about it. Some of them look past the veil of the label of what party they happen to belong to and look out for what's good for example, our school children. Keep in mind that about 45% of the people are always going to vote for the Republican and about 45% are always going to vote for the Democrat. That makes the remaining small percentage, those of us who read and think and talk to our representatives, we're in charge. We're going to decide this election. And we're going to vote for people who really care about the citizens, the economy, the environment, jobs, justice. We are going to be in charge. Don't you forget it. Don't stop reading and vote. I'm George Curtis.